This is Inside the Americas. Here's a look at today's show. The U.S. presidential election is now just 1 year away. We will touch base with Washington correspondent Fraser Jackson to see the candidates and issues influencing the campaign already. One of those issues, of course, is the war in the Middle East. Coming up, we'll focus on the effect that's having in Colombia, where solidarity with the people of Gaza is on the rise. I'm Jeannie Godula. On November 5th, 2024, just 1 year from now, the U.S. will go to the polls to elect a new president. And as the campaign trail starts to heat up, we're going to get the lay of the land with our Washington correspondent, Fraser Jackson. Hi, Fraser.
Hi, Jeannie.
Current President Joe Biden is obviously running for re-election now. Who else has thrown their hat in the ring as this race is heating up?
Well, yes, Joe Biden is obviously running for re-election. This despite there being many concerns over his age, as well as consistently bad polling over the last few months. A real worry that the message that he's trying to put to the American public really isn't resonating. He also is actually facing now a primary challenge from Dean Phillips, who's a congressman who was seemingly well liked in the Congress, but his candidature has kind of baffled the Democrats. They're wondering why he's running against Joe Biden, saying that actually the only thing he's going to do is to highlight Biden's weaknesses. He, however, says that the Democrats need fresh blood. There's also another former Democratic person running as an independent this time. That's RFK Jr. He is running on his dad's brand recognition, ultimately. However, he is moving further and further right as time goes by. Now, his candidature has been denounced by his own family. His family released a statement saying, Bobby might share the same name as our father, but he does not share the same values, vision or judgment. We denounce his candidacy and believe it to be perilous for our country. Now, on the Republican side, across the aisle, there is a plethora of candidates, some former friends of Donald Trump and some much closer to Donald Trump. One of those people being Mike Pence, the former vice president, who, after terrible polling numbers in Iowa, which was a state he thought he could win because of the number of evangelical Christians there, he actually decided to drop out of the race. Take a listen.
This is not my time. So after much prayer and deliberation, I have decided to suspend my campaign for president effective today.
So the biggest contenders are Ron DeSantis. Now, he is somebody that has been described as Trump light. He's struggled in the last few weeks to try to get some cash flow into his campaign, but he is really seen as the biggest threat to Donald Trump. Next, however, also coming fast up in the polls is Nikki Haley, the former UN ambassador under Donald Trump. She's done very well in the Republican debate and polling in Iowa at a neck-and-neck rate with DeSantis. That's around 16%. However, Trump obviously is still the leader, the former president running once again for re-election. However, he is facing mounting legal worries.
What do you think are the issues that are going to really dominate this election cycle?
Well, there's a wide band of issues that already are starting to rear their heads. One of them is border security. That is a really big thing for the Republicans. We've seen almost record numbers of people crossing the southern border from Mexico over the last few months. And the Republicans are really trying to drive home that issue and run on it. There are also international issues. The war in Ukraine is still ongoing. That's becoming increasingly less popular with Republicans, but Democrats still saying that this war in Ukraine is a matter of national security. Now, if Donald Trump got into office, it would be interesting to see how that would affect the US's approach to the war in Ukraine, and also how it would impact the approach to the war between Israel and Hamas. If that drags on for another few months, it would be interesting to see his response to that as well. Right now, the White House is walking a very nuanced line between full support for Israel, but also the right of Palestinians to self-determination. Would Trump continue that line? He's not somebody who's known for his nuance, of course, and he's also criticized Netanyahu recently, saying that he betrayed him during Trump's time in office, and also has praised Hezbollah as well, saying they were, quote, very smart. So there is also the question of whether aid to Israel would continue and also aid to Ukraine should Trump win the presidency again.
All right, Fraser, thanks so much for that. That's our Washington correspondent, Fraser Jackson. Well, as Fraser mentioned, the Israel-Hamas war is having an effect on the election campaign in the U.S. It's also having an effect in Latin America. This week, the government in Bolivia announced it is cutting all diplomatic ties with Israel over what it called its crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip. And Chile, the country that has the largest Palestinian population outside the Arab world, has recalled its ambassador to Israel in protest. The president of Colombia also recalled his country's ambassador to Israel over the war. Gustavo Petro has threatened to cut ties completely with Israel. Historically, Israel has been one of Colombia's main suppliers of weapons, but in Bogota, a city 11,000 kilometers away, solidarity with the people of Gaza is growing. James Cotter and our team on the ground report.
The Palestinian embassy in Bogota receives donations every day for the besieged population in Gaza.
I have cotton here.
Cotton, okay.
Brushes and gauze.
A few days ago, the first shipment of humanitarian aid was sent from Colombia to Egypt on a military flight. In front of the Palestinian embassy, Colombians came to show their support. The Palestinian struggle has always resonated with Latin American left-wing activists.
It's important to be here today to support the Palestinian people, as in many countries around the world, so that they don't feel alone.
This support is reflected in Colombia's left-wing president's stance on the situation. Gustavo Petro harshly condemned Israel's offensive, comparing it to the extermination of Jews in Auschwitz. In retaliation, Israel has frozen all shipments of weapons to Colombia. For its part, Palestinian diplomacy is taking all the support it can get.
The Latin American continent has always been on the side of the struggle of people for liberation, in particular with the struggle of the Palestinian people. Today, with Colombia, Brazil, Mexico and Chile, we can count on the support of an important group on the international scene to organize a peace summit.
Like Colombia, a number of Latin American countries that were formerly aligned with the United States now want to make their own position on the Middle East conflict heard.
This week, Mexico's government unveiled a rescue plan for Acapulco. The beach resort was destroyed last week by Hurricane Otis. More than 100 people are dead or missing, and the cost of the damage could be as high as $15 billion. Here's the latest on that and other news from around Latin America this week.
A week after Hurricane Otis battered Acapulco with 266 km/h winds, Mexican authorities are at last offering a glimpse of an aid plan, which will include tax breaks, financial assistance for affected families, and bringing forward social welfare payments. It's a lifeline for residents who say they've been abandoned after the Category 5 storm damaged nearly all of the Pacific resort city's homes.
Why don't we have water? The house is full of mud, everything is damaged. We live on the ground floor, so everything is damaged.
There's been looting as the city's population of nearly 900,000 becomes increasingly desperate for food and water. The government has sent some 17,000 members of the armed forces to keep order and help distribute tons of food and supplies. The cost of damage could climb as high as $15 billion. These would-be travellers were left stranded at the airport in Haiti after a surprise ban by the Haitian government on all charter flights to Nicaragua. Passengers were not given an explanation. Most had spent thousands on a ticket.
Prime Minister Ariel Henry decided to stop all the flights without warning us. Imagine that you sold everything you had. I sold my land, everything I own, to raise $4,500.
The route was one of the few ways for would-be Haitian migrants to reach the United States as the crisis in Haiti deepens, with gangs estimated to now control up to 80% of the capital. Before the ban, as many as 15 flights a day ferried thousands to the Central American country, which does not require a visa for Haitians. From there, they would begin their trek to the US-Mexico border. Venezuela's High Court has suspended the opposition's entire primary election process, including its results. The opposition and the primary's winner, Maria Corina Machado, have insisted repeatedly that the October 22nd vote was transparent and fair. But the court ruled it may be in violation of the law, despite an electoral deal between the government and the opposition that allows each side to choose its candidate. It's the latest challenge by the government of Nicolas Maduro to its adversaries ahead of the 2024 presidential election. It's decried alleged fraud since the day of the primary vote, which exceeded participation expectations, attracting more than 2.4 million voters who waited in line for hours, including in areas once considered strongholds of the ruling party.
This week, the U.S. celebrated one of its favorite holidays, Halloween. And while millions of American kids got their fill of candy or trick-or-treats further south, it was all about pampered pooches. Dogs and their owners there fought it out in the town of Callao in Peru in a Dogoween costume contest. Colorful canines dressed up as pirates, brides, manga star Naruto, or my personal favorite, Chucky. They pranced and strutted before an eager audience to show they have what it takes to claim the fiercely contested title of Best Costume. The top 3 winners went home not with candy, but with some delicious dog food instead. I'm sure they like that better anyway. Well, that wraps up this edition of Inside the Americas. Thanks for watching. See you again next time for all the news from north to south.
Every week, Mark Perelman talks one-on-one to a personality at the heart of the news.
And of course, we will continue to closely monitor Russia and what they do.
We are a people who want to be free, who want to have a democracy, and who want justice in the country.
There are still these responsibilities of the world that are kept.
Great. Hear the views that matter in Tête-à-Tête every week on France 24 and France24.com.
I'm Sarah Morris, France 24 correspondent based in Madrid, bringing you news, reports and analysis on Spain and Portugal. So join me here on France 24.
Sarah Morris, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.